Welcome back to the Gilded Eye Podcast, everybody.
Yay!
Yay!
Episode 12.
Oh my god.
Can you believe?
Ooh, I get.
And we're already famous.
Oh my
We're
god.
so famous and wealthy.
Have either of you heard of Caravaggio before?
Literally
Never.
no. You know I haven't.
No, I have very much.
But maybe you've seen some of his work.
You
and,
probably.
There are visual slides available on YouTube, and I'm going to be going through them because I love this slideshow so much.
This looks beautiful already, and you're
I'm
on the
really
first slide.
excited.
I'm like so excited.
He
But
is such. I know
Oh,
none
wait.
of his lore.
He's just so good. And, you
He is
know,
Seen all of
phenomenal.
those. No,
blanket
I've seen-
warning though, this guy is absolutely about to like demolish the asshole scale. And,
Okay, okay.
I
Should we
would.
change it to like be out of 100?
I think that it's funny that it's like through 10, but then we go
Everyone's-
over like
Okay.
So I'm gonna request that we keep the asshole ratings inside until the very end, and then we'll all like defend what we
Defend our
think.
stance.
Yes.
Is that
okay,
cool?
I'm down with that.
All right, so let's get into this guy. This is Caravaggio.
Michelangelo? His name is Michelangelo?
His name is Michelangelo Merisi da Caravaggio. And
Okay, Italian.
Caravaggio, yes, he's an Italian painter from the Baroque period. The Baroque period was from the early 17th century to the mid 18th century. It was an art movement defined by drama, emotion, rich colors, and grandeur. These bitches were melodramatic.
Love.
Yes.
They're probably Leos.
All of them. All of Italy.
Wait, so he's not the Michelangelo, though,
No,
is he?
no, he's
Wow.
not the Michelangelo, but his name is actually Michelangelo Merisi, and da Caravaggio is
Where's
just
he from?
yeah, it's referring to where he's from, which is a little town called Caravaggio.
That's so interesting because now when you hear Caravaggio, all you think of is this
Is him,
dude.
yeah.
And it's really a place.
And I was reading the book that I was reading, I should say, was it's called M, The Man Who Became Caravaggio by Peter Robb, and there was a whole chapter about his early life that kept referring to both Caravaggio and the town of Caravaggio, and that was real confusing. So Caravaggio's legacy as a prolific painter is linked with one of violence, which makes sense given the Italy that he was born into. He was conditioned by a culture of fear and suspicion right in the Counter-Reformation movement in Italy. The Counter-Reformation was a response to the Protestant Reformation, which basically meant that the Catholics were doing everything they could to give credence back to their pope and promote the old-timey Christian values that they deemed appropriate. So this meant that society was one of like informants, secret courts, and repression. People who didn't share a Counter-Reformation mindset were shamed publicly, tortured, imprisoned, and executed. At this time period, people were still actively being like burned alive in the streets. So it was like
Great. The smell of burning flesh in
Yeah.
poop on a Venetian afternoon.
Because, you know, there was poop in the streets.
oh, absolutely.
Poop in the streets.
burning flesh, dramatic
And-
paintings.
Another thing about the Counter-Reformation Church is that it loved blood, death, and gore.
Catholics love blood.
Loving blood. Early Christian martyrs died horrific deaths, which the church used to intimidate people with or like, you know, give grandeur to their big historic cause institutions. It like kind of put them on the map a little bit. They loved to commission fan art of their favorite martyrs, and Caravaggio and artists like him were the artists that they would hire to do that. He was born in 1571.
Okay.
And like most of his work like happened around 1590 and the early 1600s.
Crazy.
So that's when this was going down. Like he was very early Baroque. Like
yeah, he kind
was
of like
very
set
early.
the Baroque scene,
yeah,
I feel like.
yeah, he was a defining.
This is interesting for me because when I took Baroque in undergrad, it was very much centered on the Dutch Baroque. I didn't learn I knew of Caravaggio because you have to talk about Caravaggio in Baroque, but I mostly just learned about what was going on up north. So I didn't know much about the Italian side of it at all.
When Caravaggio was 5, the plague rolled through Milan. At this time, his family was kind of halfway living in Milan proper and halfway living in Caravaggio, the town, the countryside. They were like split between them. So in Milan, Cardinal Carlo Borromeo was doing his very best to get rid of the plague by holding public street processions where as many people as possible flooded the streets in very close quarters, sharing
okay.
breath, touching, all of that.
Right, that sounds like it is very preventative.
Absolutely.
Sores rubbing.
Sores, open
Sort of
sores.
sore.
Coughing in your loved one's mouth.
holding hands,
Praying.
When that didn't work, he decided to hold more of them, but this time he went at it barefoot and carrying a giant crucifix.
Perfect.
Okay,
it
yeah.
worked.
And by January, a fifth of the city was dead.
Okay.
And during this time, Caravaggio lost both his father and grandfather.
Oh, God.
So after this kind of happened, his family moved out to the countryside permanently. But Caravaggio he was a child. I'm sure he didn't really know what he liked, but he was already kind of proficient in art. So he was sent back to Milan when he was 12 to attend a 4-year painting apprenticeship under Simone Pietrosano, who was a pupil of Titian.
Oh,
A
okay.
what?
And Titian was like a
The
really
Renaissance.
amazing painter.
Gotcha.
Is it Caravaggio or Caravaggio?
The A sound doesn't exist in
Caravaggio.
in
Guys,
Italian.
we're from New England, so I'm sorry.
Caravaggio.
Caravaggio.
Baggio. I was just thinking, like, the plague in Milan, like, my nana's from there. It's kind of crazy that people survived that, and now...
Your ancestors made it through that. That's
like,
crazy.
that's crazy.
That's insane.
Your family. They're probably in the story somewhere.
My nana.
yeah,
She's been alive for centuries. Shout out, Nana. You will never listen to this.
So while he was studying, Caravaggio was described as wild, with heat and great spirit, but proved to be a diligent student who picked up the trade very quickly. So he was like a good student, except he was rambunctious and a
little
troublemaker.
rascal.
He returned back to the countryside when he was around 17 to deal with the aftermath of his mother's death. And 2 years after...
Orphaned. Okay.
Orphaned, yeah.
You just drop that in there
Awesome.
real cash.
There's so much we have to get to this episode. We can't deal with we
Okay,
can't.
I'm so sorry.
Early life barely even
Doesn't matter.
matters.
Plague.
He had some siblings. One of
orphaned.
them is a priest. One of them died in childhood.
Oh,
Random
God.
sister that we know nothing about. We're caught up. Now he's going to Rome.
Rome.
So he's about maybe 1920.
Okay.
Rome is the center of absolutely everything. If you wanted to be an artist and you wanted to be like memorialized in history, you had to be in Rome. As I said before, the church, especially in Rome, was looking for promotional art to solidify its standing in society, one of history, violence, and divine power. There was also a food crisis and lots of banditry happening on a day-to-day basis.
I love
Swiping
that
the
word.
bread.
Swiping the bread, so many bandits.
Banditry.
Yeah.
Swiping bread, stealing fruit, Aladdin.
A quote from 1586. "This year we've seen more heads displayed on the San Angelo Bridge than melons at the market." So by 1590, hordes of bandits were marching around as a peasant army, calling themselves the Scourge of God. And this is about when Caravaggio rolled through. The Pope elected in 1592 was Clement VIII Aldo Brandini. And he was launching a crackdown on sex work, women's activities, and so-called depravities in Rome.
Women's activities.
Just anything women were up to. He was
like,
we gotta make sure.
Let's put them in the kitchen.
he was the only thing he really did was look around for things that he deemed offensive or anything that got him bricked up. Illegal.
Put it away.
Yeah. He was an off-putting guy who did a lot of things for show. He would walk around barefoot with a heavy cross, as everybody seemed to do during that time.
Just lug it behind you.
Wait,
Yep.
Caravaggio?
No, this is the Pope.
Okay.
This is Pope Clement VIII.
Still the Pope, okay.
He would often burst into tears loudly in public so that everybody knew how sad he was about the state of humanity at the time.
He's
So
like, guys,
real.
look at me, I'm crying.
So real, though.
And then
Me today.
he also publicly fasted every Friday, again very loudly.
I'm hungry.
I wish I could eat that, but I'm fasting today.
It's for God.
It's for God, whatever.
Waste, nowhere to be found.
No.
He ties those little tassels. He's like, guys, look, it's Friday.
He was still eating in abundance in secret, all the time.
Oh, okay, so maybe.
So he was not, the waist was there. The waist was prominent.
But he told everybody.
Visible waist. It's like a size 40. He's a 40 waist, 38 length, just a normal big man.
He's so funny to me. Okay. So yeah, that's that's the Pope who's running everything during this time when Caravaggio shows up. So Caravaggio already had connections through his family, and he moved in with Monsignor Pandolfo Pucci, who ran the household of
Pucci.
the... Wow.
That was crazy.
In sync.
who ran the household of the sister of the late Pope, which is like crazy connection to have. But Pucci hated him and forced him to, quote, perform services inappropriate to his birth and station, which could really mean like anything.
Like chores.
Or the thing that Caravaggio was most offended by was the food. Pucci would do this really funny thing, at least in my opinion, where he would like bring out an appetizer and it would be like greens. And then he would bring out the main course and it was the same like few pieces of lettuce. And then he would bring out the dessert tray and it would be more lettuce. And so he would only feed him rabbit food all the time. And so fed up, Caravaggio called him Monsignor Salad and left in a huff.
Me during Veganuary right now.
My mom's almond core.
Almond moms everywhere. So he'd finally sold one of his paintings, Boy Peeling Fruit, and that was the boost that he needed to really go at it alone. And so he moved out on his own. He started working for Giuseppe Cesari, who was only 3 years older than him at the time, and he was already the Pope's favorite artist. He was working on commissions so big that he needed teams of people to help complete them in time. Wow. And Caravaggio found himself on the assembly line. And he hated it because, you know, well-respected artists would get to paint figures and faces and, like, fun scenes. And he was stuck on, like, fruit and grapes and
in the
stuff.
studio doing the shapes before the masters polish it off.
It's all sort of up in the air why he left the workshop, but he did. Some say that he got kicked by a horse. And had to go to the hospital. Others say that it was an unrelated sickness, but either way...
Even when I call out and lie.
It was either a horse or...
Me when I call out and lie. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I can't come in. I got
kicked by
absolutely
a horse.
maimed by a tiger last night. Ugh.
The Cesaris didn't visit him in the hospital, and he didn't go back. He left 3 works behind at the workshop, one of which being Boy with a Basket of Fruit. Here he paints ripe fruits, apples, grapes, figs, and a burst pomegranate, alongside an intimate portrait of a boy. It was rendered with so much longing that for a while people mistook him for a girl. The subject was Mario Minetti. Is that how you say that? Minetti. Minetti. A Sicilian orphan who, quote, got into some trouble at home and fled to Rome to find safety. Instead, he found Caravaggio.
Oh, God.
He actually worked with him at the Cesari workshop and left to go live with him. He was 16, 6 years younger than Caravaggio at the time. And they lived together for at least 5 years. One could infer, based on the nature of Caravaggio's portraits of Mario, that their relationship was at least one-sidedly erotic. We don't know for certain if this relationship amounted to anything more than model or painter, but the two did remain lifelong friends even after Mario left and married sometime after 1600. Caravaggio is not, he's a bad guy. He's a bad, bad dude.
He's like those guys that go to the football game 5 years after they graduate high school.
Yes.
Where's my hug at?
Oh
Where's
my
my
God.
hug at?
Yeah, he's no good. Another of Caravaggio's special friends was a man 2 years older than him, confident, red-haired, wild, violent, and mad as a snake, Onorio Longhi.
So he's got range,
Longorio.
it seems.
He has some range. Longhi is described as being a wicked leader of the youth and often got into trouble in the street. So he kind of took Caravaggio under his wing. He was a bad influence on him, I would say. The two of them would wield their swords at night, which was illegal.
Oh, like
What swords are we
concealing
talking
carry.
about? Oh,
Like, they had actual swords.
okay, real swords.
And they were like they were basically, if you think of like a gun fanatic now, like that's what they were back then, but with swords.
That's
It's all
so
right.
weird.
Yeah,
The Second
literally.
Amendment right. The Pope can't tell me no. He can't tell me no.
Swinging my sword.
I'm swinging my sword and my wiener with my friend.
Hey, yo, with my special friend.
My special friend. We're swinging our wiener. We're playing with swords. You can't tell me no.
So Caravaggio did have some trouble selling his work on his own at this time. He was so badly dressed that society was embarrassed on his behalf, but there were some people who like kind of took him in, gave him a place to stay, other people who recognized his talent in art and kind of like shaped him up, dressed him, stuff like that.
They're like, you need.
They were like,
A new
oh,
outfit.
honey. Yeah,
You look beat. Your art is beautiful, but you look
Busted.
you're
beat,
absolutely rotted
beat
right
to
now.
hell.
So around this time, Caravaggio painted 2 more defining works, The Fortune Tellers and The Card Sharps, aka Cheats. Both works have more than one figure and serve a narrative purpose. Fortune tellers flip sexual roles. The boy is pretty, dressed up and passive, while the girl controls and orchestrates their exchange. In Cheats, 3 male figures play cards. Caravaggio plays on the theme of innocence duped here, both in the arena of card games and the bigger picture. The rightmost boy is pulling a trick, while the boy to the left stays absorbed in his hand. Behind them, there is an aggressor, perhaps about to pull the worst trick of all. It's a scene simmering in tension, about to erupt. The sword in the right-hand corner alludes to how it might end. People really liked these paintings because they were complex.
Right.
There were like subtle expressions and like placements of the figures in the composition that told a greater story. Society loved it.
They're good.
They're
I'll give
pretty
them that.
good.
They're pretty damn good.
Like, look at the plume.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Can
so
we start
good at
dressing like
plumes.
that again?
You would kill.
No, but they are serving.
Single-handedly, we bring it back. Yeah,
I love
completely.
the feather.
Cardinal Del Monte was a big man in society at this time, and he loved cheats so much that he actually bought it, and then he moved both Caravaggio and Mario into his home afterwards so that Caravaggio could keep working on paintings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was nuts. He was like, actually, this is my artist now. He lives with me, and he makes anything that I
Purchased.
want him to make.
And you mean cardinal, like part of the church?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was like a big dude in society at the time.
Mia, as an artist, if somebody was like, I'll pay for you to come live in my mansion if you just paint for me all day, and that's all you have to do.
Yeah, duh.
Oh.
Catered meals.
I'll do other things
You have
if
your
that's
own
what you
wing in the
need.
I
palace.
know. I'd be like, say when.
What do you need from me? Body, soul, mind. I'll give it all.
At your service.
The Cardinal Del Monte was kind of Caravaggio's cheerleader throughout his whole life. Caravaggio was in and out of jail a lot, so Del Monte was
really?
always his supporter. Yes.
Wow.
Why
was he in jail?
For so many
Oh, God.
reasons.
I can't
For
wait.
so many different reasons. He was always in and out of jail. His name kept popping up in the court records. In some instances, he might not have been the perpetrator, but he was like involved one way or another because he
Wow.
was part of Longhi's like street gang.
Oh,
in
I forgot
Rome.
about that. Yeah.
A lot of the time, it was either for like street beatings or he was often arrested for carrying a sword without a license.
the sword is
This
crazy.
is insane.
So, especially at night.
It's my right.
My constitutional right. You can't tell me that I can't have this goddamn sword.
He was like really, he was very attached to it. And he would always, no matter how many times he was arrested, he kept doing it. And he was also arrested once for carrying a pair of compasses, like drawing compasses. Do you know what those are?
Mm.
Yeah, because they're like pointy. So some police thought that those were weapons and they arrested him for that. And he was like, well, Del Monte always kind of bailed him out or, put in a good word. And he was very powerful,
yeah,
so he
right.
got him out of jail a lot. During this time at Del Monte's, Caravaggio was creating paintings like The Musicians, The Lute Players, and Bacchus, all of which feature Mario. Bacchus is a particularly incredible painting because it showcases the cycle of life as well as the theatrical performance of divinity. Caravaggio was so detail-oriented and faithful to painting from life that he actually captured the dirt under Mario's fingernails, which is something inherently human. And he did this a lot, giving human attributes to beings that were meant to be divine or like holy, and this pissed a lot of people off.
It's not this idealized version. It's showing like gods and divinity as people,
Yeah.
as what they represent.
Like he would paint saints
Interesting.
and martyrs with dirty feet and just because his models were sex workers or
Right.
people who lived on the street,
Right.
and he was reflecting them from life so specifically and accurately that he didn't really think twice about it. He was like, well, that's in front of me, so that's what I'm going to paint.
Right.
So this is like, to me at least, that like it exposes that theatrical element where you can like view the painting as its own thing, but also you can see Caravaggio like setting up the scene and like making it and positioning it, lighting it, almost like theater,
Right.
which is kind of cool.
Even like the physique of Bacchus in this painting, I feel like it's a lot more of a realistic body type than we're used to seeing, especially after the Renaissance. Don't get me wrong, by no means is this an out-of-shape individual, but if we look at like the figures on
Yeah.
the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel,
Yeah.
they look
Shredded.
completely like made of Play-Doh,
Like
shredded.
Hercules.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to present a god in this way,
Like
is-
it's a boy. Like
It's-
that's
that's
just
just
a
a guy.
boy.
Yeah.
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 Mhm. It was pretty nuts. There's also, we see the life cycle specifically in the bowl of fruit or the basket of fruit in the right, because they're at every stage of like ripeness to rotten. The pomegranate is very rotten.
Do you know the Latin term for that?
No.
Vanitas.
Vanitas.
Yeah, vanitas. It's very common in Baroque. I know that Dutch Baroque obsessed with it. It was meant to show the ephemerality of life
Ooh.
and of vanity. So your beauty will rot also.
So is it a carafe or carafe? of wine.
Carafe.
Carafe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at the glass.
Yeah.
Mama, the glass.
The carafe of wine in the left-hand bottom corner, people say that there's a secret self-portrait hidden in there. But I don't really see it. If somebody could point it out, that'd be great. It just looks like a reflection to me, like a white highlight.
So people are like, oh, you can see almost a face there.
They're like, oh, it's kind of a weird silhouette. He painted himself in there. I don't really see it, but I could be wrong.
It's like Jesus on toast.
It's also like Jesus.
In Boy Bitten by Lizard, we can sense a new dimension to Mario's relationship with Caravaggio.
He paints a lot of boys.
Yeah,
this is all the same guy, Mario.
This is Mario right now.
Is Mario the
Mario
one that
is 16. He's the one that...
He's the 16-year-old.
Yes.
I was mixing them up with
Yeah,
the one that was
too.
a couple years older than him. So this is still
no.
Mario.
Yes, this is still
That's
Mario.
disturbing. I see now.
Longhi, the older guy, he's not really part of Caravaggio's painting life. He's more like his street social life guy.
Okay, so
and he's older. Mario is his model right now. That's his guy.
muse.
That's his boy. It's a painter and his boy.
That's gross.
And it's gross. And the theme does come back around, and we're going to discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's no good.
I feel like it can only get worse.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Because it's the
Bracing
pattern.
myself,
It's the
yeah.
pattern of the predator getting older and the
then
models and victims staying the same age.
Because I'm like, at first, 22 to 16, not great, but in the context of 500 years ago, I'm like, that happened so much.
Well, it was, and we'll talk about it more, but there was like, in this time period too, there was like, they were looking back fondly on the like Greek relationship of like man and boy and like master and apprentice and everything that went along with that. And they looked back at that fondly. So where society,
So they're kind of like glorifying that.
they're glorifying it, and also it's unfair. Well, it's messed up in so many different ways. But when you think about how they're clamping down so hard on like women's sexuality, women's bodies, homosexual relationships, anything like that is like you get publicly tortured for that. And then things that Caravaggio does later on in the story can just fly by and are like
Just 'cause
weirdly
who he is,
accepted.
yeah.
It was a very interesting moment in society. When
Like
it
the
came to
power
that.
dynamic with Mario, especially, I feel like is enhanced by probably his socioeconomic position as well.
Absolutely. And
It's
it
gross.
does get worse. He's a predator and he's horrible. And just keep that in mind for the entire story. We don't want to glorify him.
Damn, I didn't know any of this about him.
In hindsight, it's easy for us to like
Right, exactly.
understand
yeah.
and recognize, oh,
That
okay,
that's a
that was the
problem.
dynamic. This is completely messed up.
Yeah.
But if we put ourselves in
Like that cultural
1500s,
context, yeah.
it was very different. And that's not to say that it's okay at all.
Right,
It's just
but
like
it is.
acknowledging the difference in like how things were perceived.
And how things are learned as well.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, in Boy Bitten by Lizard, we can sense a new dimension to their relationship. Mario is screaming, awake, responsive, and alive. Maybe Mario is more aware in their relationship at this point and perhaps is reacting negatively to it. Another screaming Mario appears in Medusa, a decapitated gorgon with aggressive snakes all around. It obviously serves to represent a myth, but when you read into it a little deeper in the context of their relationship, it does become a little sinister.
I do love this piece, unfortunately.
I had no idea it was Mario, and
I
now
didn't know
and
either,
now I
yeah.
can't unsee it.
I would have presumed that it was a woman as the model.
Yeah.
Just because Medusa is a woman. A woman.
Yeah, but now I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a good painter. That sucks.
He's so good. These are all so good.
Caravaggio's work was spilling into something violent these days. In the backdrop of his painter life, a bonkers true crime case was going down. One of the richest men in the city had recently fallen to death over a balcony in eastern Rome, and his family, the Cenci family, was arrested and publicly tortured for it.
Whoa.
Turns out this man was the worst man imaginable, and his daughter Beatrice had orchestrated his death. And it's the kind of story
Whoa.
where you read it and you're like, yay, Beatrice. Like, he's the worst man in the world.
She was tortured and killed?
Yes,
Holy shit.
she, her brother, her mom, and her lover, who helped kill her father, were all like horrifically put to death.
Goodness.
And to the point where at first everyone in society was like, yeah, get him. And then when the Pope when the Pope was like executing the torture so much, especially for Beatrice, because she was a young girl. Everyone kind of knew that her father was awful.
Right.
And society, who loved blood, they were like, mercy. They kind of turned.
Realized. Yeah.
They were like, hey,
and
maybe.
for them to realize.
Yeah.
Those gory motherfuckers.
Yeah.
That's how you know.
And the Pope, Clement VIII, even though people were begging him for mercy, he decided to like show his true power and like go through it as horribly as possible. It was gruesome. It was really bad.
That is so gross. We love theocracy, though.
Clement VIII issued a prohibition of any written comment at all about the case of Beatrice Cenci.
He's like, guys, I know that I did it. Nobody talk about it, please.
Wow. Why is he so
he eats.
good?
He does.
That is so beautiful.
You can't hold a candle to him.
I've seen this before, but wow.
I just flipped to the painting he did of Saint Catherine, which is presumed to be inspired by this case. She is surrounded by instruments of death without the classic parted lips, bare breasts, and heavenly light. She's staring out at the viewer, demanding notice. He painted his own sword in the composition as well. Which he loved that thing.
Is that in her hands?
Yes.
Wow.
So that's his.
And he's bestowing the sword.
Yeah.
Okay. Why can't talented people not be evil? It's just like the only person we've covered was Frida Kahlo.
Judith and Holofernes, which is actually titled Judith Beheading Holofernes, is painted in the same vein. Here, Caravaggio shows the immediate action of extreme violence of murder. Holofernes' body is cramping in death, and an old woman waits with a cloth, ready to catch his decapitated head.
Whoa.
Do you think that's your Nana?
Oh my God. I can't believe she's there.
I love this story, and I love the way that it always shows up. So Holofernes was a general who was ransacking the city that Judith lived in, the city of Bethula. And Judith decided to get him drunk. I think she snuck into his encampment or something of that nature.
This is a real story?
Got him inebriated. I think this is like a biblical era tale.
Oh, okay.
Got him a little schmizzed, and she was like, I'm gonna fuck you, haha, but then instead she cut his head off.
Period.
And saved the city before they ransacked it.
Yeah.
So
Period.
Yep.
There's a coiled tension to this scene, one that is described to compare Old Testament with domestic violence. It is even more impressive when we remember that everything Caravaggio did was painted directly from life, so the models had to hold these poses for hours on end. They actually cut off a guy's head.
Wait.
No, they didn't. But that's funny.
It's like maybe a cadaver. I feel like the blood is not exploding. It's kind of just like a gentle spray.
There is a stream, though. Like, it's not going straight down. Like, there is some direction.
I thought it was part of the rope.
Oh, get him.
Get his ass.
I
Get
didn't
him.
think it was blood. It doesn't look good to me as blood. That's my troop. The rest of it's
God.
beautiful.
Oh, such a beautiful
Hope he's
painting.
mad up in hell.
One of these models was named Philide, I think. I love that name, so that's how I'm pronouncing it. Who posed for both Judith and Saint Catherine. She was a sex worker who, like Caravaggio, was often arrested for womanly crimes of some sort or another. She also threatened and chased around another girl with a knife one time, which is, every sex worker in Italy at this time can like do that one time. They get a pass.
I'm okay with it.
She was acquainted with a man named Rannuccio Tomasoni, who, along with his brothers, made up a prominent street gang in Rome. Just mentioning that guy because he might be important.
She
later.
sounds kind of badass.
Yeah,
She is.
Sounds awesome.
He had like a couple ladies that he would use in multiple paintings, and all of them seem awesome. Caravaggio painted in a chiaroscuro style, which he put on the map. It's a style of painting that has to do with light and dark relations, highly contrasted images that are lit from a specific direction. He would light his models from a single high window, most often positioned in the upper left. The darkness in his paintings, quote, fixed the gaze on the drama of the human body and held it there. So he was responsible for like bringing this style into the Baroque kind of mindset. He was brought to real fame by his two paintings of St. Matthew, one depicting his calling and the other his killing. He painted this for the Contrelli Chapel, and it was a job originally meant for Cesare, his ex-employer, the guy who had him on the assembly line. So Caravaggio was like with the big leagues now. He was in the public's eye. Yep. Everybody knew him after this because I didn't do it.
This was when I first learned about chiaroscuro. This was the piece that they used to discuss it, like the light pouring in from the window, calling Saint Matthew to become a saint.
Wow.
The guy pointing at him, the light just hitting the hands of people pointing and on him. Everything, all the lines, the linear, all leading to him.
And this is one of, like, normally his work is kind of in this liminal dark space. Like, there's not really a hint of environment, or sometimes there are, but mostly it's kind of just in a void. This is one of his few paintings
like
where
a
there
setting.
actually is a background, which is also very, like, it distinguishes it apart.
There's a lot going on.
Many things.
It's showing
many
the time
things
of
considered.
day. It's showing so much. I love it.
I love that
I
St.
want
Matthew's
it.
like,
I want
me?
to buy it.
Who, me?
Somebody get it for Belle.
Like, St. Matthew looks like he's surprised.
He's so
to be,
humble.
He's like, what?
I know everyone's expression. He's
Yes.
it's so intentional, down to like every eyebrow.
You can tell that
twitch.
he used real life models in
Yeah.
this way, like the way that these people are so expressive and so distinct. It's not like a formulaic approach.
We should model for Mia.
I've been waiting.
I would offend both of you greatly, but I'm so down.
Offend?
We should come up with a story that we want to like have memorialized in painting, and then we'll
Yes.
do it, and I'll do it.
Well, you could do it in like your style. You know what I mean? Like
That'd be
we'll
awesome.
we'll sit for you, but when
Make
we look
it-
at it,
yeah.
like it's in your.
You know those
fun-
like horrible JCPenney photo shoots? You guys
Yes.
should do one of those, and then I'll do a whole series of that
Oh my
in
God.
paint, in oil paint.
Done.
I would love
That'd be so funny.
Oil paint on the outside of a building. It's a mural in Providence.
Okay.
me and you.
With our knees touching.
La la la. So he's in the big leagues now. Now Caravaggio was dressing in sleek black costumes
Ooh.
with his lovely sword at his side.
Sword.
And he was also accompanied by a black poodle named Crow who did lovely tricks. So
hate him,
he
this
had a
man. I
whole,
hate
he was, and he's horrible. But he had a lot of people emulating him. Like so many, there
Oh
was
my
one
God.
guy who literally got the same type of poodle and started dressing exactly like him and was walking around. Like he had fans, he had stands at this
He's
point.
the Bella
obsessed.
Hadid. He's the Bella Hadid of the 1590s.
The 1590s.
Did you see what Caravaggio's doing? Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah. After this, everybody wanted Caravaggio to paint fan art of their favorite saints and martyrs. His deviant art was going crazy. That's Gaz's joke. I stole that joke. Just because he was famous didn't mean his shenanigans stopped.
Never.
In fact, now more than ever, attention was being paid to his behavior. There was an incident now referred to as the Night of the Dickheads, where Caravaggio and Longhi were roaming around town together as best bros do. Maybe they even held hands. I don't know.
Roaming in Rome.
Another painter, Marco Tullio, and his special friend Flavio were also passing by. Longhi turned to Caravaggio and said, referring to Marco, "Dickheads are worth a penny each." Flavio clapped back with, "I eat dickheads like you for breakfast," and a fight broke out.
I eat the dickheads like you were for breakfast.
This is like
In a my cucina.
Like, it's so slapstick in my
Yeah.
head, where they're like,
this is artist on artist crime, gay on gay. Like what's
It's like a bad friend skit.
yeah.
Yes, this is Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Caravaggio unsheathed his sword and injured
damn it.
Flavio's hand.
No, he did not.
He did. He injured Flavio. Longhi, in the aftermath, made sure to always downplay Caravaggio's role in their encounters. He was like, "My guy, don't worry, he's not part of it. It's take me
Instead,
I was the one roaming in Rome, causing trouble.
I said the dickhead thing, not him."
No.
But due to Caravaggio's fame, he was always the main suspect and subject, no matter what anybody else
I
said.
bet this was good publicity. Just the fact that he was such a rapscallion.
Well, it was
Oh my
forming
God.
like a legacy, because his art was so good that even if he was doing things the church didn't like, he was kind of, people would
People
make
were like, "Oh my God,
allowances
what a-
for him.
What a
Justin Bieber in 2017.
Ariana Grande licking the donut.
Miley Cyrus Can't Be Tamed era.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
Literally.
After this, he was accused of beating a man shopping for candles with a stick. Then he was arrested
Me,
again.
a Yankee Candle.
How dare
During the
you?
end of the year sale. Get the fuck away from my fucking wood.
Cedarwood.
Wick, cedarwood and bergamot candle. Okay, my 15-hour wood wick, cedarwood and bergamot candle. You bitch.
You bring a giant stick into the...
I'm ready. I'm dressed like Caravaggio. I have a
Poodle.
black
I'm the poodle.
You're the poodle.
After this, he was arrested again for carrying an unlicensed sword around at night. Again.
So funny. Like, why is that the rule? It's so random.
And
Not at night.
He'll do it again. Oh, okay.
Daytime, fine.
Yeah, I don't care about your sword.
Sword.
So again and again, his name kept popping up in court records.
Ooh.
At this point, Mario had left him. So,
No, not his child bride.
well, he needed a new model, so he moved 12-year-old Francesco Bonari, Checo for short, in with him. And yeah, it's not.
What
So
the heck? Wait. Where did he find him?
the street, I'm assuming.
God.
Think about how many boys are just around.
Just
Bad change.
like home. Oh God.
Sorry. It's not funny.
No, like I
what am
have to
doing?
I have to laugh because I literally feel sick.
Yeah,
Like
no,
you know what I
me
mean? And there are paintings that I did not include because
It's just
it's
so-
weird.
yeah.
I'll show you part of one that I cropped.
Oh.
Oh,
No.
I saw this. I
No
have
way.
seen this one.
Yeah. And so okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
we're looking at Love the Winner. Checo was reported as being Caravaggio's servant that laid with him for years on end.
Oh,
And in
God.
hindsight, for this entire, and he also painted a lot of, it's always called John in the Wild. He did like so many iterations of the painting of like John in the Wild, which is like, they're just young male nudes that he like paints and distributes, and people loved them.
Ew.
That's the weirdest part to me. Is
Ew,
that
people ate that up?
people loved it. People like regard this as his best work.
What?
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, it's so angelic, it's amazing. The weirdest part is that a bunch of like high profile, powerful men in society were like, hey, could you make some more of those?
Ew.
Hey, could you like steer into that skid real quick for a while, forever?
That makes me
Powerful
feel
men.
gross.
It's so disgusting. So I didn't include those in the slideshow. But this is something that he was doing for a long, long time, and people liked it. Like society was reacting really well to it. For those of you not watching, this painting is a nude of Checo painted as a smiling boy with eagle's wings. And in hindsight, we can clearly tell that Caravaggio was painting like a victim for a long, long time. You know, like someone who needed something, some support, some money.
Yeah, The
Yeah.
power imbalance is absolutely like. There's no
disgusting.
way that it. No.
Anyway, I didn't want to just skip over it because it's like really important to like
Right.
call
You didn't
him
wanna
out for this shit.
necessarily blow it up on the screen, but definitely address it.
Like-
you did a
like-
brilliant job of that.
Well,
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that it's important to like he's not a gay icon. Like he's
Absolutely
a
not,
predator.
yeah.
Like he's not whatever. Anyway,
he's not-
LGBT boo.
because
Sorry.
that's like people
Rejected.
I think that
Rejected
it's
from the
easy.
LGBT.
Like I think it's easy to be like I want this person to fill this thing. Like so that,
right.
that's what.
Yeah, because you look for representation of yourself in history, and that is
Yeah.
something that is neglected often. So
we
it's
have Frida
easy to-
Kahlo. She was bi.
So anyway, this is like the most difficult non sequitur that I could make, but I have to do it. Artists everywhere were trying really hard to be Caravaggio. They were trying to emulate him, specifically like his painting style, right? Caravaggio was getting so much money, he was famous, he had his style, whatever. And he hated when people did this. He did not like when people copied him.
So can you guys like do something original, maybe?
And he hated one guy in particular, Mr. Giovanni Baglioni.
Yeah, it's me, Mr. Baglioni. You know? I'm painting some shit.
Baglioni was ripping off his style, and he was doing it beautifully. He actually won a gold chain for his work Divine Love, Conquering Earthly Love, which aggravated Caravaggio to no end. Baglioni would boast about it, too. He was like a sore winner. Like, they had this, like, really intense rivalry where they fucking hated each other. And the worst part was that after all this, Baglioni landed himself a huge commission for the Jesuit church in Rome, which Caravaggio wanted for himself. He was...
Sorry.
Get fucked.
Yeah, honestly, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Baglioni was to paint the resurrection of Christ for the Jesuit church in Rome, which is like
Wow.
a big deal. And Caravaggio wanted to do it so bad, but the pressure got to Baglioni's head.
Oh, no.
And this is a quote from the book. He flopped.
No way.
He fully
Are
flopped.
you being serious? It's from the book. It says that.
The book says that. So this painting, like when you
Oh,
think
wow.
about the painting that came before and everything Caravaggio was doing at the time, this painting is horrifically composed.
Yeah.
The
not-
lighting is coming from
brown.
everywhere. There's not a focal point except for
Not
this
at all.
random blank spot in the middle.
very muddy.
We can't tell what's going on. It's not a good painting.
My oh wow, I want you to know is I was in disbelief of how much I don't like it. It is so brown.
It's so bad.
Like, he's clearly a talented individual, but
He flopped.
He flopped.
He
I
fully
can't even
flopped.
tell where Jesus is.
Where is Jesus? I think
I've seen some great
Is he all
resurrections
over?
of Christs.
maybe.
That was both plural.
Is
in
this
the
actually
wrong
up
places.
still?
I actually don't know if it's still up,
Oh.
but when it was up, Caravaggio was completely gleeful. He was so excited. He was preying on this downfall. He and Longhi went on dates to the church where the painting lived to critique it loudly and in public.
And kiss a bit.
They would make sure to set the tone for Baglioni's horrible achievement. And this actually spurred a poetry fight between Baglioni and Caravaggio's lackeys. And this is like one of the craziest parts, so just bear with me as I set this scene. Each of these painters had young fans and like fellow painters who would follow them around everywhere, you know,
Hairstyles.
scuttling. Yeah, they're basically the stands. They had stands who would follow them around and like
Write fan fiction and
yeah, they would be
what have
writing
you.
the fan fiction. They would be acting on their behalf. They would be like defending them. They were like, don't talk about my favorite painter like that. You know what I mean? It was that kind of culture. This is what they did back then.
Our roots.
Yeah, our roots. So Caravaggio actually had so many of these fans. Baglioni only had one. He had one guy.
No way.
Yeah, he had one guy, a young man nicknamed Mao.
Mao.
So Mao would meet Caravaggio's lackey somewhere public, and they'd exchange slam poems. And then the two lackeys would return to their respective painters to relay whatever bars were spit that day. Caravaggio, it was reported back to Baglioni that Caravaggio and Longhi were like talking smack. The lackeys started up this, like, you know, conversation. And I have one poem that was written by Caravaggio's lackey that I would really love to relay to you now. This might be the first time I bleep in the podcast that I
Bleep?
use, that I censor.
Wow.
Is it that bad?
Well, here we go. Johnny Baggage, you don't know a f***. Your pictures are picturettes. We'll see with work like that, you'll never make a cent to buy yourself some cloth, to make yourself some little pants, to show the world the part of you that shits. So take what you've done, your drawings and sketches, to Andy the grocer, or wipe your ass with them, or stuff them up Mao's wife's cunt, since you're no longer f***ing her with your big donkey's dick. Oh, painter, pardon me if I don't worship you, but you're unworthy of the gold chain you wear and an insult to art.
That was so stupid.
Wow.
If someone said it to me, I'd
Wow.
be like,
Okay.
you took the time to write that? That's so weird.
They would slam poem each other.
And this is just one of them. Like, they would do this. It's like, this was yeah. But after this one in particular, Baglioni sued. He sued all of them for libel, for criminal libel. They actually had to go to court.
Libel?
Libel?
Liable?
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 How's it spelled?
Libel.
I have never heard that word.
I think it's
never heard
libel.
of it.
It's kind of like
Libel.
slander,
Oh,
I believe.
that's so weird.
It's like,
All of this is weird.
and this happened. Like, think about how long ago this was.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
They were
Don't you dare write about my wife like that. My work is fine.
For
How dare you?
this, Caravaggio was arrested on September 11th.
he was arrested.
September 11th. Not funny, sorry.
When he testified, Caravaggio stuck to his guns. He said, "I don't think there's any painter at all who thinks Giovanni Baglioni is a good painter." And then he went on to say that the Resurrection Commission was the worst painting he'd ever made and that all of his prestigious artist friends think so too. Eventually, he was released under the
Wow.
condition that he'd never say anything mean about Baglioni or Mao ever again.
Imagine going to jail for talking shit. I'd be in federal max.
Back then, back in
I'd be executed.
publicly.
Publicly.
Shame.
On
They
fire.
would crucify me. They'd crucify me, spit on me, stone me, and set me on fire.
I think
And
that
then put it
they
out,
Once.
and then make me do it again, and then put me on fire again, and then put it out. And, like, it'd be like
It would
days.
be cyclical. It would be.
They'd slice me up.
I think that you would get publicly crucified and set on
Yeah.
fire. I would be a head on a stick in public.
Yeah.
And Myra would be whipped on a donkey through the streets.
But no one would. No, Myra would be fine. They wouldn't know.
You think I'm slick?
Mhm.
No, you're
Myra's-
too quirky.
Yeah.
You're too quirky for the Reformation Church.
They'd be like,
That's true.
they'd be like, oh, her friends pressured her into it. Look at her fun square
Oh,
glasses.
oh yeah. Okay, you're fine. So you'd think that this would deter him from committing more atrocious acts, but no. One day, during an artist hangout, Caravaggio was brought a plate of 8 artichokes by a waiter who told them half were prepared in butter and the other half in oil. Caravaggio asked which were which, and the server told him to smell the artichokes to find out.
I wouldn't know the diff by smelling it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like I have a discerning snoot. I might be
A
able
snoot.
I do love artichokes.
I love a little garlic butter.
So for whatever reason, this broke Caravaggio inside, and he took a china plate and threw it at the waiter's face.
What?
Normal reaction. Okay.
Before he could get to his sword, the waiter ran away and reported him.
Sword in the restaurant.
He was trying
Sword
to
in a
sword
restaurant.
him?
Yeah. He was arrested for assault, but again, due to his rich patrons, he got away free.
Oh my god.
Sometime after this, he was arrested and jailed for participating in a rock fight.
Me stoning my haters.
How old is he at this point?
Like
That's
30?
a good question. I think he's 30. Yeah, he's early 30s maybe.
Does he
embarrassing.
die young?
Yeah,
Oh, I
he
can't
does
wait.
die
Keep
young.
going.
So around 1605, Caravaggio was painting a girl who lived nearby named Lena as the mother of God. She was another sex worker, I believe. If there was so many people and characters in this story, I could be confusing the names,
yeah.
but
I feel like
think
a
it was
lot
her.
of models were also sex workers.
Yeah.
I think
Safe
you said
bet.
earlier that she was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
so.
so. There was another girl. That was his thing. Anyway, she was being pursued by a lawyer who her mother hated because, quote, lawyers went straight to hell. The lawyer, angry that the mother deemed Caravaggio more respectable than him, he burst into a rage and slandered Caravaggio to her face, implying that he was doing terrible things to her, which I actually don't think he was because she was not his taste. Horribly. The mother confronted Caravaggio about this, who was so mad at the insult. He
course.
grabbed an axe
Oh.
and hunted the lawyer down in the streets. And he whispered, "It's time you learned how to behave yourself," before bringing the axe down on his head.
Moida.
No, shockingly, the lawyer didn't die. Somehow.
Axe in the head.
Yeah, axe in the head, fully publicly. Caravaggio was arrested and lost his license to bear arms. Oh.
Oh, no.
He can't
The
conceal
fact
and
that
carry.
He had the license.
What
this
does it look
long.
like in the 1600s? Like, what is he carrying?
Imagine it's like
He has a
a
forged
giant
one. That's what I'm picturing.
scroll that he has
He's
to
like, "Hold
put
on."
somewhere. That's so funny. So, blah, blah, blah. Society still wanted him to make paintings, so he had to promise he would never do anything like this again, and peace between him and the lawyer was made official when they sealed the deal with a handshake, embrace, and a kiss.
I'm sorry.
Yep, back then.
Okay.
And I still don't think the lawyer liked this very much because obviously he was axed in the brain,
Traumatic
but
brain injury for the rest of his life.
With
What?
tongue?
with the kiss with tongue, to really get it in there that they were cool.
Crazy that he survived this without so much as a coma. Like, that's fucking nuts.
Little
That is
lip suck.
insane.
That's what healed him. That's what
Teeth gnashing.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
So around this time he painted Death of the Virgin,
I
which
love
was
this.
a dead Mary, and it was immediately rejected. Due to her swollenness, it was rumored that Caravaggio had pulled a body from the Tiber and actually painted it in his studio.
Excuse me?
There was another rumor that the model, was pregnant at the time, but either way, it was too much for the church to handle. Eventually, through a deal assisted by Peter Paul Rubens, who we talked about before,
Oh.
Peter Paul Rubens.
Peter Paul
Don't even
Rubens,
get me
Where's he
started
from?
on that guy. He's from the Dutch Republic.
Oh, okay.
and
I
he was
like,
a fan. He was a Caravaggio fan.
He was a member of the Caravaggisti, which
Woo!
was like all those motherfuckers who copied his style, basically,
Gotcha.
and brought it north. And then he also served as the court painter for the King of England. Peter Paul Rubens, not Caravaggio.
Peter Paul Rubens.
Peter Paul, Peter Paul
I love
Rubens.
that
Peter
guy.
Paul Rubens.
So he loved this painting in particular, and it was purchased for the collection at Mantua through a deal assisted by Peter Paul. Meanwhile, Pope news: our favorite guy, Clement VIII, is dead.
No.
He was
no!
replaced. He was replaced by Paul V, who was just as bad, maybe worse. Caravaggio painted a portrait of him.
Oh, wow.
He looks
was
like
real fame.
he looks like he's got a stink face on.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
thought that after this portrait, the Pope was out to get Caravaggio because he was offended by it.
Yeah, it's a
But
bit
that's just
rude.
hearsay.
He looks like this.
I feel like Caravaggio loves painting people veristically. Verism meaning so naturalistic that it can be offensive.
Yes. No, yeah.
gotcha.
He's
So,
that
like,
guy.
yeah.
So during this time, Caravaggio was between houses. He kept missing rent payments and moving around. A group of papal grooms, which I think are just like people who work for the Pope. What is a papal
'cause
groom?
It's the papacy. The papacy? The papacy.
The papacy.
Not the papacy.
Not
the papacy.
Peter Paul Rubensi.
PAPAL grooms. I thought
Papal.
Are they just people
PAPL.
who work for the groom?
For the who?
For the Pope, sorry.
I said, excuse me.
Remember when Caravaggio might have gotten kicked by that horse? So they wanted him to complete a painting job on their new altarpiece for their recently moved chapel, and they found Caravaggio at his friend's house with a gnarly gash in his throat near his left ear. He insisted he'd fallen down the stairs onto his own sword, but nobody believed him.
Sword.
His sword. Caravaggio was flighty at this point, unreliable. He had yet to deliver another work to the Duke of Medina's ambassador, but kept asking for forwarded payments, and the painting was never delivered.
What was he doing?
So he was very anxious and unstable at this time. And then it was the anniversary of Paul V's coronation in 1606. All right, lock in for this one.
I'm locked.
Seatbelt on.
It
Rannuccio,
just got silent in here.
Yeah.
I swear.
Rannuccio Tomasoni, remember that guy? Remember? He was like friends with that one model of his.
Mm-hmm.
He and Caravaggio started brawling near the tennis courts over a bet.
What is this guy's problem?
The legend goes that Rannuccio, who was a known enemy of Longhi's and therefore Caravaggio's, fell during the fight. Cocky, Caravaggio wanted to prove a point and jab at his opponent's manhood.
No.
So he took his sword and flicked the tip of Rannuccio's penis. What was meant to be a playful snub accidentally severed a major artery, and Rannuccio bled to death almost immediately in the street.
In his wiener?
Oh, God. Yeah, you can't fuck around with knives and dicks.
Holy shit. What a terrible man.
Isn't that insane?
He's horrible.
What the
Is that not
fuck?
crazy?
It's like, I didn't mean for him to bleed out through his penis. I just wanted to maim it severely.
I just wanted to like make a joke.
You know, this all could have been solved if he put down his sword.
The sword.
The sword. It
The
all
sword.
goes back to the sword.
It's
I
literally
told you
all
not
back
to
to the
play
sword.
with the sword.
Poke
all
your
right?
eye out.
Cousin Vinny's not going to help you. He's not going to bail you out anymore.
Del Monte's not gonna fucking help
No,
you if you
he's
kill
not
a
gonna
guy with
fucking help.
with his penis.
No, your penis. The penis
really
was
good
too
at
far.
that.
It was really good, yeah.
So anyway, we can infer this based on Baglioni's account.
Baglioni.
Baglioni says, in his overly passionate nature, Caravaggio was a bit wild, and sometimes he used to look for a chance to break his neck or put someone else's life in danger. They challenged each other, took up arms, and when Rannuccio fell, Caravaggio wounded him in the prick with the point of his sword and killed him. A lot of accounts say that he hit him in the thigh, which was kind of like a polite way to talk about the groin.
They're
Yeah,
dancing
yeah.
around.
They're
it a
like
little bit.
dancing
Yeah.
around. Yeah, I believe too to like save Rannuccio the embarrassment of that. I am
Right.
What a
assuming
way to go.
crazy.
God.
And also, as we said
Rannuccio.
before, him and his brothers made up like a pretty intense street gang at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately afterwards, the Tomasoni brothers like beat Caravaggio within an inch of his life. Like
Oh, wow.
he was
God.
reported likely to die or remain a cripple for the rest of his life. But he did get out alive. Despite all of this, his network of supporters took him in and got him out of the city. So now he's on the run. He can't go back to Rome because he committed homicide.
Holy shit.
Damn.
Yeah. He fled to Palermo first. Del Monte set him up there. There he learned he was sentenced to death in Rome. And not only like a regular death sentence, he was sentenced by the proclamation of a ban, which implied he was getting the bandit treatment. And it basically meant that anyone within the territory of the court's jurisdiction could kill him, and it was encouraged, cut off his head to be presented to the judge for a reward.
Holy shit.
So like anyone could be like, it's the killer, and fucking decapitate him in public.
What? If you had a beard and dark hair
And a dog.
and a poodle, no more poodles.
You gotta get out of there.
You gotta get
Poodles
out of
running
there.
in the street, abandoned.
Crazy.
Wow.
Stray poodles everywhere.
So obviously he was not in a good spot. He was able to go places and live places after this murder because he was such a good painter that after he was out of Rome, basically everyone was like, oh, Rome's greatest painter is here. He can come paint for us. We want some of Caravaggio's paintings.
Is that the same boy?
This is Checo.
He went with him?
It's a theory that he went with him. There's a theory that when he was on the run, he stopped painting directly from life because he couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
But there is also a theory that Checo went with him somehow for a while because more paintings of Checo did pop up.
I was gonna say.
So it's not like we can't say for sure. He could just be like, he has so much skill painting, like it wouldn't surprise me he could do this from memory, but
True.
also who's to say? He paints David with the head of Goliath in 1609 to 1610. In this painting, Checo holds Caravaggio's own decapitated head in his hand. He poses him and Checo as David and Goliath. And it's an image meant to depict righteousness conquering arrogance, and it's turned into one of tragedy and deep sorrow.
Interesting for him to make himself Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
Also, considering the context, like he's wanted, people are looking to decapitate him.
That's a choice.
Yeah. It's almost like he's being a little meta and
He's
like
like,
calling attention. It's his own wanted poster, basically. After Palermo, he found work in Naples. When Caravaggio arrived in 1606, it was considered to be the richest and most depraved city in the whole world.
Ooh.
Perfect for him.
Yeah, people were so distracted by the horrific famine and conditions going on in that place that Caravaggio could live a low-key life for a while, working on numerous commissions, and people loved them. 7 Acts of Mercy made people crazy. It was huge, intense, and impressive. It highlighted the disturbing street life of Naples while bringing the divine into the human realm, which was something Caravaggio did best.
This is very interesting.
There's a lot going on.
I know. Some consider it to be the greatest religious painting of the 17th century.
Wow, that is high praise.
Rome at this point was getting really antsy. They were maybe like, oh, he's making really good work without us. I'm forgetting who I am without him. Maybe we shouldn't have kicked him out. Caravaggio was making some of his best work ever, and Rome like couldn't get their hands on it since he was working out of Naples. A lot of Caravaggio's allies in Rome were expecting the usual course of allowances to play out for him, and they were busy rewriting the narrative, calling the murder an unfortunate accident that was hard on both parties.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So they were
They're
like,
wait.
They were trying to set the scene for maybe a pardon. After Naples, he went to Malta. Malta wanted him to paint there so badly, they teased a knighthood, which could lead to special treatment and a pardon for his crimes.
Oh, my God.
So the Order of St. John wanted a powerful artist to help establish their legacy, and Caravaggio fit that bill. So he became a knight. He was knighted in the Order of St. John, which is insane.
That's crazy.
He painted the beheading of St. John for them, and they loved it so much, they gave him, pay attention, asshole scale. They gave him a gold chain and 2 slaves as a reward.
Slaves?
What year was it? Early 1600s? I think so.
Yeah, it was like 1606, 1607 maybe.
Oh, my God.
So just keep that in mind.
I'm at a loss for words.
He didn't have them for long because something happened. Something very mysterious happened.
Oh.
It led to Caravaggio being removed and thrown out of the order and community as a foul and rotten limb. That was a quote.
Oh, he did something naughty.
We still don't know what the specific crime was, but it was obviously unspeakable amongst the order and punishable by death.
I'm so intrigued right now. Do we know what we don't know what it is? They were like,
So I
now
don't
we
know.
know why Rome got rid of this fucking guy.
Yeah, they were like, ew.
Yeah.
He was imprisoned in a guva or a guva or a guva.
No idea.
It's a bell-shaped hole in the ground, 11 feet deep. But then he escaped the guva somehow.
What is happening?
He was in there for a couple days.
He was like, let me climb.
And somebody had to help him out because
Somebody.
he couldn't do it by his, like he had some network again where we don't know who it was.
Somebody let him out of the guva.
Somebody let him out of the guva.
What the fuck is a guva?
So,
All I'm thinking about is that scene in R&R.
oh my
Just
god!
picturing-
Guys, RRR, best movie of all time.
Best movie of all time.
I'll take it to my grave. So now, not only was the entirety of Rome still after him, but all of St. John's knights were too. So he's got the knighthood on his ass.
Why doesn't he just like pause and reflect and like be like, why don't I be better?
Why? I think it's me. I think maybe I should look inwards.
At this point, maybe.
He actually was doing kind of well after this. Like, despite the entire pressure of the entire world, he moved to Messina and seemed to thrive there for at least 6 to 8 months. A wealthy Genoese businessman put him up in his best room and paid him more than he'd ever been paid before to decorate a chapel for him. At first, the businessman wanted a painting of the Holy Mary, Mother of God, but somehow Caravaggio convinced him that what he really wanted was an image of Lazarus raising from the dead, which are two very different
Very
things.
different. Very different. It's gorgeous.
So
God damn it.
It's so beautiful.
this
God
image,
fucking damn it.
this image is, the light in this one is crazy. The light in this one is so beautiful and soft. But as we know, as much as he could, Caravaggio tried to paint from life. So it's believed that he had a corpse exhumed to paint this man from life, which is awful also because look at the positions of like the women around him.
They're
were
holding it.
They're like face to face against
For
this
hours,
corpse.
most likely posing with this. I did know that he was a corpse painter guy.
Yeah, he was into it. So
God.
he posed the body in the arms of some hospital porters who could not handle the stench of it, and they wanted to quit. But guess what Caravaggio did? He threatened them with his sword, so they had to see the job through.
He was like, keep holding that dead body, god damn it.
Who let this man?
Who gave
keep
him
a
the sword back?
I'm so done with his sword. It just gets funnier every time. What a crazy person.
So at this time, it was reported that, quote, Caravaggio's mind was cracked up. He was mad round the twist off his head. He eventually wounded another man in the head. After this, he fled again to Palermo and then back to Naples. So he was constantly on the run, and he wasn't helping himself. He was still being a monster because he's a monster. And like the fact that he's talented enough to get away with it.
Exactly.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
I can't wait for his death. No offense.
No
Well,
full offense.
So either right before or right when he arrived back in Naples, he was attacked. Some reports say he was murdered, but he was just badly disfigured. His face got all slashed up. Someone maybe from the knighthood was out for vengeance, and so people believe perhaps like
Someone got him.
someone got him, and either he got away, either it was like a warning, or either he got away with just the disfigurements. I don't know, but he was not doing well. He was wounded, and then Rome pardoned him. They wanted his new work so badly, it was crazy. They were absolutely losing themselves over him. It was like they broke up with him and they were like,
baby, please.
baby, oh my God, come back to me.
What is wrong with people? This is the point of the episode where I'm just like,
Well, okay, buckle in.
I'm buckled.
On his way back to Rome, everything was looking up for Caravaggio. It was all coming up Caravaggio, right? He's back in Rome, he's on the run, and he's fine, and then he was found dead on the beach.
Oh no. Wait, like just found?
He was probably heading back to Rome after hearing the news when he died at Port Ercole. He was almost 39. Reports say he fell ill suddenly and died just as fast. Some reports mentioned he was kept in a prison for 2 days and then released on foot. Maybe whoever slashed up his face came back to finish the job. His death and disappearance was carefully kept out of every written record, and there was not even a body. There was no
my
body.
God.
It was just a report. Until
Oh.
What?
in 2010,
Whoa.
which is crazy.
That's yesterday.
I know. Scientists discovered bones in Tuscany that they really believe are Caravaggio's. They were high in lead, which a lot of painters were because of the materials that they used. And it was like, lead poisoning, lead sickness could lead to a lot of mental turmoil and madness. Like Van Gogh, we see that. And it could be like biological, mental health issues, but lead did not help. And from this, they could also infer that he died from infected wounds, perhaps on his face from getting all slashed up, or sunstroke. And that's kind of like what we know. And I don't know how they could figure that out from just bones.
I don't either.
But I'm not a
carbon
scientist.
date. They can
They did all the
time
stuff.
period. But where did they find them?
They found them in a church near Port Ercole, where he was reported to be.
Somebody was like, let's just dump his bones here.
And maybe someone was trying to keep it a secret. Maybe it's like
Right.
everything is shrouded in mystery
This
in the
is
story.
so crazy.
Yeah. So, as Baglioni said back in Rome, his old friend, later Caravaggio died just as badly as he lived.
Ooh.
And that is the
period.
story of
Oh my
the horrible Caravaggio.
What a terrible man. 0 out of 10. God damn, his art is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
It is so unfortunate how truly magnificent of an artist he is.
Where
Like,
can I
that's-
see it?
It makes me
I
mad.
think I've seen one.
Where? I will hunt these down. Unfortunately, I will hunt these down.
I think he's one of the worst. Like, I
think-
really think he's at least a 10.
I would say for the sanctity of the scale, we should keep it 10.
10.
10.
He is 10.
He is 10.
He is 10. I think he's at 10.
If this is the scale, Diego Rivera is a 5.
Diego Rivera.
Yeah.
Like
The sister thing, I'm still bumping him to like a 7.
6, 7.
I'm going 6 because that's gross, but it's not as gross as,
Yeah, you're right.
I can't.
Also, he murdered somebody.
He murdered
Also,
somebody.
he murdered somebody through via penis.
He axed someone's head. He hit somebody else. He
So many.
killed some
Something-
children.
yeah.
He was a pompous prick.
Yeah.
I can't, no. 10.
10.
10,
10
no
tens
one
across the
compares.
board.
Tens across the board.
In a bad way. I hope
Yeah.
this episode wasn't too gross and sad.
No, I don't think so.
No. This was a great story, and you did so good.
I was
Yeah.
curious because going in, I was intrigued by it because I liked his work a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that he had like a murder connected with him. I didn't know that he was like the perpetrator, but I was like, oh, that's kind of like, I knew he was kind of a dark and mysterious artist. So I was like, I want to learn more. And then it just kept escalating in ways that I could not even predict.
Yeah.
So many unlicensed swords
The
in the
swords
story.
is funny.
Swords.
I'm sorry I keep calling them swords, everyone. I can't
Swords.
stop now.
It's just so funny.
It's so good.
I
Baglioni.
unlicensed sword at night. What?
So many times.
That's such a weird, like, I get it, but what a weird rule.
You're
It's
just up to
insane.
nefarious things at night,
Yeah,
I
it's
suppose.
just
to
random.
have your sword.
What's he doing with the sword out? Is he just swinging it?
He's just like,
I think he's just walking with it. He's probably playing with it.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
What a
what
weird,
a strange.
what a weird, I don't have any other words. This man is weird.
Flabbergasted.
Flabbergasted.
Weird, abusing,
Horrible.
magnificent
Bad.
painter.
Magnificent painter, and it's
Everything
just so
else,
unfortunate.
unfortunately, the worst. Yeah.
His paintings are not even all of his paintings. Some of his paintings, we're so lucky to have them.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
other than that, kind of a miss. He kind of flopped as a person.
1600s flop.
Flop.
But anyway, thank you for listening to this difficult episode. I hope that people enjoyed it.
I think
Thank
people
you
Thanks
will.
for
for
listening.
delivering this with eloquence,
Yes.
nuance.
Yes. Like, I'm like, this is an important piece of history. Just because he was a
Absolutely, yeah.
disgusting piece
It's
of
just
shit
frustrating.
doesn't mean
It's
we can't talk
frustrating
about
to-
it.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
I think it's far better than not talking about it and being like, "This, look at how great this guy is."
Yeah, we're just
Exactly.
glossing
Because that's
over.
what school does for a lot of these artists.
I think that nobody has the time to just sit and get into it, and we kind of do. So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing.
Here we are.
Thanks for listening. We're
Thanks
Gilded
for
Eye
listening.
Podcast on everything. Send us a message. Send us a message. Send us some episode requests. Tell Myra she looks beautiful today.
Myra looks beautiful today. If you're Italian, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, you're Italian too.
That's why I'm sorry. Okay?
I'm not.
I'm not Italian
Go
either.
eat the cotoletta, call her your nonna. I do that to her all the time. I'm like, ciao, nonna, how are you doing? She's like, I don't sound like that.
All right. Well.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Love you.